Welcome to the 5 Minutes with NRT Project Accounting series. Today's session is on labor processing. We're going to do a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. The first one is I want to show you in the general ledger where we currently stand as far as journal entries. The last journal entry here is 5/20. We'll come back to this screen after we're done and we'll see our new postings sitting in there and we'll take a look at them. Second of all, I wanted to point out that there's a couple of ways that labor can be entered into this system. Today, I'm going to be demonstrating how we enter it through our NRT E-Timesheet web-based application. There's also options to enter time manually. If you choose not to use our NRT E-Timesheet, there's manual entry screens that you can also process your labor with as well. So to start the presentation, we'll go in where it all starts, with the employee setup. And essentially, if you're using E-Time, there's licensing that is turned on, and these two tabs here will be activated. But basically, we set up our employees in the employee maintenance screen. This is where we define what their title is, whether they're a supervisor, who their supervisor is, where they're located, and what labor period group they're associated with. In the NRT project accounting and the E-Time, we can have multiple labor periods. So you can have like weekly, bi-weekly, or semi-monthly. We identify whether the employee is hourly and salary. Tab number 2 tells us basic default information for their assignments. It also tracks the labor, the salary, the compensation. And it tracks it by date, so we can track historical pay changes. Tab number 3 is our E-Time tab, where we have email addresses, user IDs, who the approvers are, associated with the time card, whether we're doing daily hours to check, and essentially when they start. If you're using our E-Time expense, we have an option for configuring that for expense reports. The assigned earnings codes are telling the employee what they're allowed to use when they're charging on their time card and how we compensate them. And then we have our assignments tab, which is, this is an assignment-based system, so an employee can only charge to what they have been assigned to. So this is the list of the assignments the employee would have options to see on their time card, or if you're using a manual data entry, what you would see in the drop-down boxes. And we also track leave. So essentially, once the employee is set up in here, if you're using E-Time, when we do the save of the employee record, it will automatically populate the E-Time system. I'm now going to go over to E-Time. I'm going to be using the admin login. Obviously, an employee will be using their own personal login, but since I'm going to be using multiple employees and multiple labor periods, I'll be coming through the admin screens. We'll start over here on the timesheet maintenance. This is the main. You'll see that we actually have 2 different labor periods, as I was referring to earlier. This is the main one. We're going to enter an employee record here. This is the current time period, so I'm going to actually go back one. To 5/27, and we'll see this is a weekly time card, and we're tracking leave. You can see up here there's leave tracking going on. Here's the different types of earnings codes or pay types the employee can use. There's projects associated with those. These are the assignments that you saw on the assignment tab. We can pick one of these and we can enter the hours. And since this is weekly, this would only give us a 7-day time card. And then we go ahead and we can select the second project here. And when we get to the end of the period, we can go, this is how you save, and we can get to the end of the period. It confirms your update. We can go ahead and submit for this period. So in this case, you see this is submit approved. This means this particular employee has the ability to not only submit their time card electronically, but also to approve their own time card. That is obviously a fairly limited option. Most of your employees will not have that. This particular employee, we're going to go ahead and place an overhead. And again, they can only charge to the jobs that they have been assigned to. And then we'll go ahead and submit. You'll notice that particular employee did not have an approve option, which means it's required to be approved by their manager. I'm going to pop over here and we'll go ahead and just override these approvals. These are the approval toggles that are associated with the time cards as it goes through the approval process. So those are 5/27 there. And then I'm going to switch over to the biweekly. And that would be this individual. And this is what a biweekly time card looks like. So you can, again, you can see there's different types of labor period groups that we can use for different types of employees if that's required. This one is for a 2-week period of time. It's all being displayed there. And then basically, we'll just go ahead and finish this out. And we hit it save. And again, this one is also submit approved. So we'll go ahead and submit and approve. What this screen is just in is verifying that you're to the accuracy of your time. And we'll then log out and we'll process. So we'll come over here and we process the labor under our labor menu item under the project accounting module. We're going to be covering the particular import process here. You'll see there's other options for third parties as well as correcting timesheets as well as manual entry. When we're processing, we select the labor period group. And we'll start with the main first. You usually do not want to commingle your labor period groups since they are of different durations and time frames. So I'm going to do the weekly first. And we were doing 5/27. We select the period that we're bringing in, and then we'll hit proceed. And this is, once it's brought in, it will check to see if there's any errors or any issues. If there isn't any, it goes ahead and processes it. Then we hit yes. This is processing it. And what this is doing, we compute rates, the recasting of rates for salaried employees. So it goes through the whole process and costs out the information that you're bringing in for your time. If we go into our labor data entry screen, we can now see our 2 employees are in here. Okay, this is what we just processed. Okay, and then we can post. So what we'll then do is if there's no issues with what you're doing, we would go into our labor data entry posting here. We'll run our report. You can see there's a date up there. This is the date that will show up on the journal entry that we're going to see in the GL at the end here. This is our posting report. We have a final shot to make sure that everything is okay here. And if everything looks good, we'll go ahead and say post. So we just do a double check of our numbers. We'll make sure that everything looks good. And if it all looks good, you can actually dump this information out in various formats. And we'll then say, yes, we want to go ahead and post. So we say yes. And now it's already posted to the project ledger. So what we now have here is it's asking, do we want to post to QuickBooks? And we say, yes, we want to post to QuickBooks. And it's giving us the journal entry that it's going to post in QuickBooks right here. Okay. And we're going to come back over into QuickBooks in a moment and take a look at these journal entries, but I'm going to process the other labor period as well. So we close this out and we say yes. So first posting is done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to process our second biweekly. So we go in again, import timesheets. This time we select the biweekly. We click on it and then we select the fiscal year that we're looking for. And the period we're bringing in, which was 5/26. We hit proceed. And then again, it's asking for processing. When it's complete, I'm just going to go right to the report this time. You can see it's a different posting date for the biweekly because it has a different ending date for the labor period. This is the individual posting for the biweekly. Okay. And so this is what we're going to be posting to the GL in QuickBooks as well as to the project ledger. So we'll go ahead and close this out. It says, do you want to go ahead and post? We say yes. It says, do you want to create the journal entry for QuickBooks? We say yes. And this is the journal entry it's now creating for the biweekly posting. And we just go ahead and you would save these reports and print them out. And then what we do is we go back over to the QuickBooks and we do a search on our journal entries. And we can now see we have our new postings here. This is the one I just posted that's related to the biweekly. And if we close this out, this is the one that was related to the weekly postings. Okay, so that's how that's an overview of how we do labor processing with NRT Project Accounting, NRT E-Timesheet, and QuickBooks. This concludes today's session. Next week, I'm going to be covering a session on project setup and maintenance, where we create the projects in QuickBooks and we bring them over into NRT Project Accounting and we configure them over there. If you'd like more information on our product, you can go to our website at www.nrtbusinesssolutions.com or email us at info@nrtbusinesssolutions.com. And I thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.